I'm Malcolm Behrens. I'm from California, and I am on a mode to reach for justice for all the homeowners. The banking industry in the past years has predominantly shortcutted using a system called MERS, Mortgage Electronic Reservation System. Mortgage Electronic Reservation System does not have the power to foreclose or hold title in any property. We ask the folks if they are in foreclosure or having problems with their payments, or their servicer shows up as being MERS, they need to contact the groups. And also, if they're being foreclosed on, or even if they have lost their home to foreclosure, they need to contact the Attorney General, not us, the contact, the telephone numbers on the signs, and get some action going, because people who have lost their homes have rights to get their homes back. We urge everybody to pass the word around from one person to another. It's the help that everybody gives one another that is the important part of this whole mission. Stand up for justice, stand up for your rights. Don't let the banks take advantage of you. Know how to combat the crooked actions of the banks, especially the big banks. Some banks are very honest, they'll work the right way, but do not fall prey to MERS. MERS is the biggest foreclosing action going on in this country to date. We travel from one state to the other, urging people to just stand up for their rights and get their homes back. If someone buys a house at a cheap price after it's been foreclosed on fraudulently, they stand a chance of losing their investment. So I urge everybody, speak to one another, help one another. If you know somebody in a group, of a church group, or any kind of organizations, spread the word, because no one should be embarrassed about their problems. We are in a bad recession, depression, and I can speak for myself. I've heard many things over the 77 years, and I can truthfully tell you that it's the people that are going to speak out and get results. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Lambert, and my home is being foreclosed upon. Today I was down here with my wife for the second foreclosure sale, which was has been an interesting process. They call it a court proceeding, but it's not in any court. It occurs actually just inside the hall there at a table, and there's just an auctioneer there. There's nobody that represents the law or anybody that's been elected by anybody in my community. It's just it's entirely the bank's discretion whether they foreclose on me, and that's kind of a shame. But we all need to come to the conclusion, the reality that the government's really just representing the banks anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. So for my own sake and for everyone else, including my family and my grandchildren, I'm fighting my mortgage foreclosure because I don't want to leave this oligarchy to the descendants, my family's descendants. That's irreprehensible of me to do nothing. And I encourage everybody to do something, even if it's just holding a sign. At least you're, making it public that that you oppose this. So my situation with MERS really is sort of secondary. My house went into foreclosure because my wife got injured and ended up just on a workman's comp claim, essentially. And we didn't have the money for it. We couldn't afford our home anymore, and so we stopped paying on it. There was little choice for us. But as I've educated myself, and I encourage everybody to educate themselves on this issue, because what's happening in the housing market is hitting home, and what happened to me can happen to any of us. most Americans are just living paycheck to paycheck like myself. And so as soon as you stop getting a paycheck, you're not able to pay your bills. So I guess the bottom line for me is I really want to encourage everybody to get out there and take some action. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, you'll feel better about yourself. And if you work for a bank, hey, quit your job. Take some pride. You'll feel a lot better. I know it must be really painful to work at a place like that, but I have worked places I didn't appreciate, and I ended up leaving, and man, I feel so much better about myself. So, thank you.
Well, my story starts when I tried to refinance with the Makes Homes Affordable program that the government put in place. I fought with Bank of America for over a year to try and accomplish that the first time. And in the process, they decided to set up an escrow account. They paid my taxes, although I'd already paid part of them, and they paid my homeowner's insurance, which I'd already paid. They paid a homeowner's insurance policy that I canceled. And then they wanted me to pay them back all at once. Well, that didn't work. So I started paying them, making higher payments than normal, and they sent my check back saying, well, after several months, they sent a check back and said, well, you don't send any more payments until we get this straightened out. So I stopped making payments. And then they sent me foreclosure. Well, after discussing with them, trying to, I kept getting passed around to multiple people in the process, and finally I just literally gave up, and then they said, well, okay, let's try refinancing this again. So we started sending in the paperwork, and basically that's when I met Malcolm, who showed me that the deed, they're not on the deed to my property. Their name's not there. It's Countrywide, which is what they purchased evidently, and MERS. And again, I kept filling out more papers. All they wanted was more papers and more papers to refinance. And then I got an attorney who is stopping the foreclosure. He has put in a restraining order for the foreclosure at the moment until we can get somebody at Bank of America to work with us and get this settled and taken care of. I'm not trying to get out of paying off my house. I borrowed the money from somebody, but who? I'm not sure who anymore.
Occupy Eugene has been helping homeowners who are having trouble with their mortgage for the last several months. We've heard many stories like Cindy's and Dave's, and the practices the banks are using to seize people's homes are reprehensible, illegal, unethical, and unbelievable. And people caught up in this complicated process feel like they're in a surrealistic nightmare and literally have no one to turn to, and that's why they come to Occupy Eugene. There are lots of lawyers who will foreclose on your house, but few who will defend your house from foreclosure. Fortunately, due to our excellent legislative delegation, particularly Senator Lee Byer and Representative Paul Holvey, the Oregon legislature passed a foreclosure reform bill in the last session, which will prevent most of this unethical behavior by the banks, but not all. However, the new law, Senate Bill 1552, doesn't take effect till July. Between this date and July, about 2,000 Oregon homes will be lost to illegal foreclosure. Today we're asking that you join us in calling the governor and the attorney general and ask them to declare an emergency moratorium on foreclosures in Oregon until the new foreclosure reform law, Senate Bill 1552, takes effect. You can also sign an online petition at our website, www.occupy-your-home.com. Occupy Eugene's Foreclosure Action Committee meets each Wednesday at 5 o'clock at 454 Willamette.